Do you feel the vibes?
Hey guys, Schlippery Fred here. Today we're going to do something pretty simple to test out my new video editing software. We're just going to be making a picture in krita. I've got all the images I plan to use on my other monitor here, so I think we can knock this out pretty easily. Now, I remember on my old computer I used krita for a few months, but as soon as I got access to a copy of Paint Tool Sci, I quickly started using that because an artist I really looked up to used Paint Tool Sci. And I really wanted to, kind of mimic him in any way possible. I've learned as of recent it's kind of an unhealthy thing to do, but that's how I was feeling at the time. I liked it. Like, Sci is, it's kind of old, but with a double T, there are some pretty simple features here. Like, something I don't really like about krita is the stupid pixel size thing right here. Because, I draw mostly in MS Paintbrushes, and that's not really super friendly to it. Every time I gotta either hold the control key to go up and down by perfect decimals, or I gotta use the very small arrow prompt. But aside from that, I do like how, I'm finally using a program that's, actively updated. I'm not using a build from, 2019. And I can actually do stuff like use arrow keys or paste transparent images. Stuff like that. Now, the reason I went back to krita after all this time, I'm gonna move the layer up here, was because I could not get my copy of Paint Tool Sci really working properly on Linux. I switched to Linux pretty recently. We're gonna switch to Lime here for high contrast. About 3 or so months ago. I was kind of getting tired of Windows and wanted something kind of, fresh and fun because, I kind of like messing with my computer, customizing and stuff like that. And my first distro of choice was Kubuntu because I know that, Ubuntu, whatever, was, supposed to be, the beginner-friendly one and would treat someone like me who's pretty new pretty easily. I thought of Mint. I think Mint was my first choice, but I saw that Mint didn't really even want you doing stuff like opening the terminal. You could open the terminal if you wanted, but it's supposed to be for someone who doesn't even want to see it. With all the new crap they do. So I went with Kubuntu. I also went with Kubuntu because I really like KDE because I had a lot of experience using it on my Steam Deck. And thought, it might be pretty easy for me to use a distro with the same general menu system. Hey, did I do this right? Yeah, guess they're not really that fluffy, huh? Could be pretty easy to fix though. So for that, I remember switching, it was pretty easy. Just booting crap off of a live USB and telling the computer, hey, could you install this operating system on this part of the disk? And they said, alright, sure thing. But I kind of ran into a problem because I use a pretty new computer and I did not know at the time that NVIDIA wasn't really a big fan of Linux at the time, or right now at least. And it really kind of struggled to do stuff like be compatible with my 180 hertz monitor and stuff like that. That was actually the first big problem I ran into. I'm going to make this foot a little more defined. Was I have a pretty alright monitor, pretty high resolution, 180 hertz, but I still use the same display tablet that I've used for about 5 years, which is understandably only 60 hertz. And a big problem I ran into was X11 doesn't really like mixed refresh rates. So it saw that my tablet was 60 hertz and my monitor was 180 hertz. I need to pull up an image of a hacksaw. So it's saying it saw that my tablet was 60 hertz, so everything on my computer, except for the cursor, because I guess the cursor is like all hardware accelerated and all that, everything would be 60 hertz. And, you know, after spending nearly like $1,500 of my cold hard cash making a nice new fancy setup, that didn't really fly for me. Here is also the problem, though, because anyone would say just use Wayland. And I did. I switched to it, and all my problems were alright. But as soon as I tried booting up TF2, like running off of these, you know, the super pretty cutting-edge whip-zippy stuff, would only run at like 30 FPS. And I knew something was off, because when I switched to X11, it would, you know, shoot up to like 300. I was really struggling with that, you know, I was really on the fence. I was thinking maybe I should go back to Windows, but here's what happened. Here is what the hell happened. I restarted my computer, booted back into Windows, and it told me, we kind of lost your password, so can you verify your email on another device so you can log into your own computer? I was like, what the hell? That is total BS. Like, this is my damn computer. Why are you holding it hostage like that? I did it a couple times, but, you know, that was kind of a lost straw for me. They had lost kind of any real goodwill I still had for Windows, because I was still pretty loyal to Windows for a while. You know, I would always tell people on, like, Discord servers and stuff like that, you know, I am not nerdy enough for Linux, but I'm too nerdy for Mac. But yeah, just that whole debacle. But kind of back to the whole Kubuntu thing, I could not really get everything working. So my next choice was, you know, trying a distro hop for the first time, because, you know, I think it's kind of like a rite of passage for anyone who uses Linux. You gotta change distros a couple of times before you find something you're satisfied with. So I went with CachyOS, because I heard, oh, that's like the super fancy whip zippy one right now, you know, optimized for speed, you know. You already get a pretty good speed boost switching to Linux from Windows, so switching to CachyOS would just make my computer just freaking sing. And here's where like a big problem with that happened. It's actually kind of like a funny little justice thing. When I booted from the live USB and tried installing CachyOS to my boot sector, it kept like failing. Like every single time, it kept failing. And, you know, I was just struggling. I was asking ChatGPT all sorts of things, and then I realized it wants like this big hefty boot sector, like 100, 300 megabytes, and Microsoft still had the whole boot sector of my computer locked down. Like, I couldn't expand it, I couldn't do anything. So basically what I just did is I said, screw you. I formatted the Windows partition of my computer in just pure rage, added a new boot sector for CachyOS, then installed CachyOS to where Windows is. So CachyOS is currently living where Windows used to live. Windows 11 used to live on my computer. And switching to CachyOS did work. Like, everything works perfectly now. I do have to use Wayland, so, you know, I get that mixed refresh rate stuff, but everything just works flawlessly. I'm quite excited about it. I'm still getting used to it. Like I said, I had to switch to Krita here from Pay Tool Sci. Like, I did try Wine and all that, but I kind of understand what people meant. Like, it's better to simply get used to using an alternative rather than messing around with wine. And I think what helps me get used to krita again was the fact that you can customize everything. Like, this is far from the default layout krita has. Like, something that really pissed me off when I first started using it again was there was no dedicated undo or redo button. Every time I wanted to undo something, I had to go into edit undo. And I was really angry about that. I remember Googling it. It's like, I'm sure most people have the same problem. People were saying, hey, where's the undo button? And it's under like a couple drop down menus, and it taught me about the whole custom toolbar thing. And my eyes kind of lit up because, like, wait, I could have everything customized to be really close, like as close as possible. That's what I did. I grabbed a couple of old screenshots of Psy, and I used the toolbar menu to get everything pretty close to what I like, including the swatch menu, the color wheel. I do keep the tools here instead of over here, but since the custom brush size menu is basically gone, there's something I had to get used to. But I've been pretty happy ever since. Something I don't really like about it, but I'm still putting up with, is like the smoothing of like 1 pixel brushes isn't very good. Like, it's kind of jagged. Like, I'll look at some of the older drawings I've made using Psy, and then I'll look at stuff made using like the just basically the same technique in krita, and everything's like a little more jagged, a little less slick looking. But I think that's just kind of worth it. Also encourages me to start using things like higher pixel brushes again. What else? What else? Aside from that's been pretty smooth. Like, I haven't done anything super serious. It's just kind of been, making things I would usually make in Psy on krita. Like, stupid drawings like this. Just kind of get used to it. But it's been nice. Like, everything else about this whole process for me has been pretty solid. I like how KDE looks. I really like the terminal. Like, it's almost kind of cathartic going from having to download a zip, unzipping something, starting up the wizard, saying, hey, I don't want this, I want this, install to this part of the disk. Instead, I just, pop open a terminal and go, sudo pacman-s install Steam. And Steam's just on my computer, ready to go. No ifs, ands, or buts. But I do understand why, newer, more beginner-friendly distros will want to move away from that, because it's weird. It's scary. Like, I hardly even liked opening the command prompt on Windows. And this is, Whip Zippy Command Prompt Pro. But it's nice, just half the time you're just going to a website like when I installed krita properly, because I used to use a Flatpak version before I switched to the native version. I went to krita and they just said, hey, copy paste this in your terminal and everything will show up perfectly. And it did. Look here. I also like how I have a dedicated transform button now. It's not realistic. Like, I was really used to doing everything. Every time I wanted to, squash or stretch something, I just have to hit Control plus T every time. But there is a button now. Like this button right here. I could just go beep. I can do this better. We should have pulled up a reference image for this. There we go. Why didn't I think of this? You can just remove the outline here. Yeah. Do this. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Paste. And we're going to move this to the bottom. Hit transform. And we're going to hit it with a white bucket tool on the letters. We're going to bump up to like 6 pixels or something. Switch to bright red. Here we go. Grab the logo here. Oh, shoot. We're gonna go. Where's paste? Paste is under edit. Okay. Where is it? There it is. There we go. Okay. Just need to add the new head here. I think we're going to open this in a new canvas. Okay. And then we just magic wand this shit out. Something I do miss about Psy, I'm sure I can like reconfigure this, is it would let you like magic wand as much stuff as you liked. But now you could like hit it right now. At least I can only select one thing at a time. But I'm sure it's like a settings click away. It's another thing I enjoy about like free and open source software. It is made by the people who use it, so they have a damn good reason to add or improve things. So you're always going to get something fun or whip zippy. I'm going to erase that. I'm going to switch to brush. I don't really like the erase mode very much, but I'm sure if like you're using like non-pixel brushes, it's really convenient. Okay. Move these. Then we can hit the transform tool again. Shit, I missed a spot. Maybe the next not going to work. I think I can figure this out. I can also just erase in that layer. That's what I'm going to do. I think it's this layer, so we're just going to hit erase mode again. We're still at line pixels, so we can just kind of do like a general area here. Go back here, hit the transform tool again. We want to keep that, it's going to work. Okay. I was kind of falling into like this feedback loop. Okay. We're gonna make everything a flat color. I need to turn up bucket tool tolerance. Do this and okay, I need to mimic the brush style. You need to do the same thing to this part. Same thing here. Okay. Anything I need to touch up on? Touch up on that. Crank down the pixels here because we are being precise. Oh shit! I need to use the relevant layer. There we go. Well, that was an enlightening experience. Thank you for sticking it with me this whole perilous journey. Remember to like and subscribe to your mom. See ya.